All right, folks. Well, thanks for sticking around. And like I said, this is going to be not an in-depth review. We're only one half of the show watched the Fallout show, so we're not going to go too much into detail. Um, but like I mentioned, if you love Fallout, I'm a huge Fallout fan. You heard me mention The Legend of Zelda so much on the show that I think anybody that knows me will say that's his favorite game series, and to a certain extent it is. But the next one definitely a close second, if not in some forms my favorite game franchise is Fallout. Any eagle-eyed viewer that's been watching the show, most of my shirts, like even this one that I'm wearing, it's from Fallout. My wife she made me a ton of shirts and stuff uh based on Fallout lore and stuff. So it's really big. It's a really big deal. So when I heard that there was going to be a movie, I was excited. And then as development went on, the movie kind of fell through and was canceled, and I was disappointed. Well, it resurfaced a few months later. They said, "Hey, instead of doing a movie, we're going to do a TV show." So I'm like, "Okay, a TV show." Now they throw big Hollywood budgets behind these shows, as we see with Marvel and the Disney Plus shows. Maybe it's not going to be so low budget and so cheap, cheap looking
Right.
as you would think that a show would be. And I'll be honest with you, I'm pretty impressed. I think that whatever budget they had for the movie, they kept that budget for the TV show. They paid some really good actors. They had some really good sets and props and things like that. And it looks really good. So
Okay, but
this is,
I want to get my 20 seconds in here
yeah.
real
Jump
fast.
in here. Jump in.
So there are two things that I got excited about for this. One, Jason's talked about this game. I've never played it,
Mm-hmm.
nothing. And I thought, okay, this will give me a chance to see why he likes this so much. And second, I love post-apocalyptic
Yep.
kind of stuff, right? So
Right.
the books like the Divergent series, and I could go on and on about some of that kind of stuff. So I love seeing how people handle post-apocalypse
Right.
kind of stuff, how society evolves and all that kind of stuff. So I thought, great. And I watched how long into that first trailer, and I sent it to Jason and said, "You'll like this," but I couldn't even watch the whole trailer because they started diving in. I mean,
Yeah.
and I'm not judging anyone. Jason knows this about me, but the language that was in the trailer alone, I'm like, yeah, I'll never make it through
Yeah. Yep.
anything in this show. So I was disappointed that I won't be watching it. So
Right.
there you go.
Right.
There's my maybe more than 20 seconds, but I'm done. Now it's all Jason's post show. Enjoy.
And you're right. And the vulgarity doesn't stop from episode one all the way through the end. It stays pretty vulgar, pretty inappropriate to the point where my son, like, hey, I should watch that because I'm always telling him, like, hey, you should play the game. It's better than the games that they play, the Fortnites and the Call of Duties. I'm like, it's getting way better, but he doesn't like anything that dad likes. So he's like, hey, maybe I should watch the show. And I'm like, nah, you wouldn't like it. You wouldn't like it. It's just like the game. So, uh, but jumping into this, Greg mentioned that it is a post-apocalyptic kind of view on society, on the world. And if Hollywood can do anything right, it's post-apocalyptic themed shows and stuff like that. So most of the shows, from The Walking Dead to other shows, they're pretty easy to film because they got that system down, right? If it was like a Western or something like that, or Star Trek, things based in the future, those type of shows require a higher budget. It just seems that way. To make things look futuristic, it just costs more money. Post-apocalyptic, you can find rundown buildings and stuff to film in, and it's kind of easier on the budget and kind of lore friendly, I would say. So basically what Fallout is if you think of the 40s, 50s, 60s kind of era of the United States, um, if there was a nuclear war, a nuclear battle back then, the timeline kind of splits, whereas we went towards computers and stuff like that. Everything kind of stayed based on the technology and stuff available in the 50s and 60s, and that's where your post-apocalyptic theme comes from. Everything is based on that type of um, uh, like you think about the Jetsons, how their view of the future was. That's pretty much Fallout. It's a futuristic view of society based on the 50s and the 60s.
Right.
So um, nuclear war happens. It's kind of frozen in time. People go down and they live in these what they call vaults, and they have those perfect societies. Somewhat. I don't want to spoil anything, but they have um, quote unquote normal societies living in the vaults, and then everyone else that are stuck that survived the nuclear blast. Generations went on, and you have animals and stuff that are that have been changed by radiation, and they're where you get giant ants and giant roaches and chameleons that are big as velociraptors, and bears that are just mutated animals and stuff, scorpions that are the size of cars and things like that. So the show pretty much puts you in the middle of the game, right? My initial views, my initial impressions from watching the trailers were just like, okay, this is just going to be Hollywood is going to do their Hollywood thing, and they're going to give you a show, Fallout, and it's going to be something totally different. But by the time the second trailer and the show came out, I'm impressed. This show is as much as Fallout as the games are, right? So what I mean by that is that this game, the story, I keep saying game, it's not, it's a TV show. This show could be a game itself. And that's how smoothly it fits into the lore, into the Fallout universe, is that um, they didn't do the Hollywood thing where they take a franchise and they create something else with it, right? They'll name it Fallout, but the show will be made up characters. None of these are made up characters, but they'll be something independent on what the video games are, right? Um, One example I can think of that is like you get the rights to make a TV show, The Batman, from DC, and you choose to make it about Alfred the Butler. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like stuff like that. It just annoys me when people do that. Now, again, I know this show had its fans and its audience, but when you want a Batman themed show, you want it about the Batman or Bruce Wayne or something like that, not about a character within that. And Hollywood is good at that. They'll take a franchise, Lord of the Rings. When you think of Lord of the Rings, you think about hobbits and things like that. Now, the show was great. Don't think I'm trash talking the Lord of the Rings show, but it was so far away from the story that everyone was expecting that it kind of took away from
Yeah.
some of the excitement. And this wasn't that. This one, although it was after the latest game in the series, you can see the continuation. They didn't take nostalgic things or callbacks and just sprinkle them into the show while they're telling their own completely different story, right? This was a Fallout story. All of the games were basically based on a character that grew up, that was born in the vault, that for whatever reason forced them out of the vault into a real chaotic world, which is the wasteland above. And this was it. And everything that they put in there, whether it was callbacks to another game or callbacks to or props or things from the game, it wasn't forced in there awkwardly, right? We see so many movies that video game movies that are about something totally different. Sonic the Hedgehog, right? Instead of making a game about Sonic the Hedgehog, they take him out of the video game world and put him in the real world with human companions and stuff like that. And every now and then they'll play a sound effect from the game and they're like, hey, remember this? This was from the
Yeah.
video game. He got the ring. He got the whatever. It's not awkward like that. Everything from the medicine, which they call stim packs that she used, that she had a reason to use it. It wasn't a real like reveal moment like stim pack, da 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 da. And she uses a stim pack to get healthy. No, there was a real fluid reason why she had to use one. Why there's different devices and why someone would have props from a game from another game in the series, but it's in like a resale shop or something like that. It's real crazy. Everything is just nice, and I think from what you get from that is when you give someone the property, a video game property, a franchise or something, and you give that to a writer who doesn't understand it, a director who doesn't understand it or doesn't care, and the studio behind him is like, hey, we got this really popular character from this video game, make us a movie from it, and no one understands it, including the actors, don't have a clue. It makes for a really bad product. And it seemed like, at least with Fallout, most of these people, including the actors, at least care. I saw a Q&A session that the actors had where they got to answer questions from geeks about the game, and they were nailing the answers. They knew the game, even if they didn't play it on a daily basis or played it at all, they were able to answer some of those questions, and I thought that was a really cool thing. So, but yeah, that's my impression of the show. Some things that I want to see from the future. They ended on a cliffhanger to another game in the series, and I won't spoil anything, but one of the more popular games in the series, the cliffhanger ended with one of the main characters from the show arriving at that location, and it's just really really exciting to end on a cliffhanger like that. There's some plot points from the first season that they didn't tie up, they didn't close. There were people lurking in the shadow from companies and stuff, like literally like in the shadows. Like you see that character and they got the lights off and they're looking through the window at the people having a meeting and stuff. Who are those people? Who are those people behind pulling the strings and stuff like that? They left all of that open. If you're a fan of the video game and you play the video game series, you ultimately know who's behind everything. But if you're just tuning into the show, they left a lot of those plot points open. One of the main characters still searching for his family and stuff like that. I'm excited to see in the next few seasons them close a lot of those plot holes and crossover with other games. Right, like I say, they ended the on this cliffhanger with one of the more popular games in the series. There's still other really popular games in the series, and I'm wanting to see some more crossover with those and more factions and stuff like that. One of the biggest factions that is in the game, they mentioned just briefly in like a flashback in this season. So we know they're out there, we know they exist, and it's just tying them all in. And this is, I'm going to say, I know Fallout is new to a lot of people, but if they play the cards right and they shows are just as popular as I think, this can be as big as Star Trek. They can have a universe like Star Trek or Stargate, or Legacy of Monsters, the Monarch series. Amazon could have a franchise. I know they bought rights to Tolkien's Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit and all of that, and they have The Witcher. Oh no, that's Netflix with The Witcher and stuff like that. But if they play the cards right,
Amazon has The Wheel of Time, which
yes,
was
and
one of my favorite book series ever, and just like Fallout,
yeah,
I can't watch it. So,
which is so, it's such a bummer when you're a fan of the book series, like you said, and Hollywood does their Hollywood thing, like I said, and they just cram in like that. We talked about this with Star Trek, just cramming in a bunch of curse words and just awkwardly jamming stuff in to give it a more edgier feel or tone for nothing, when you can make it as lighthearted and not lighthearted because it's post-apocalyptic and futuristic and stuff, but you can do all that without all of the vulgarity and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Yep.
A lot of that stuff is optional in the game, right? If there's relationship stuff and things like that, you literally don't have to do all that, and it won't affect your mission. You don't have to marry and go on dates and things like that. A lot of the adult stuff, you literally don't have to do that, and it won't affect the game. Whereas in the show, it's a part of the show just to make it edgy, just to make it, more gritty. So,
yep.
All right. Well, like I said, I love it. I don't want to drag on and make this a whole hour review, but just a quick little rundown. If you're a fan of Fallout, if you're not a fan of Fallout, and you're a fan of post-apocalyptic or video game franchises or things like that, then this is definitely a watch. But just be aware, there is some vulgarity. It picks up from episode 1, and it doesn't stop until the end.
All right.
All right. Well, that's all, folks. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, everyone.